Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Breakfast Wrap here at Geek Retreat in Newport. This week, I am joined by everyone going from the left side name all the way to the right.
Is this what we're going with?
Yeah.
Okay. Liam, owner of Geek Retreat.
I'm Rhys, I'm eating pancakes.
I'm Liam, not owner of Geek Retreat.
I'm Bethan, also not owner of Geek Retreat.
And I am Lincoln, semi-owner of not owning Geek Retreat.
Sadly, today we are not joined by Tom, as
He is ill.
he is ill. But we are talking about the most anticipated games of 2023, or three of us are at least. So, partly, yeah.
What three are talking today?
So it'll be me, Beth, and Liam. Who would like to go first?
I don't have a lot to say about mine because there's not very much known about them.
Okay.
But my first one would be Sims 5. I genuinely don't know what will be the content because it's most probably just Sims 4 with new stuff and maybe better graphics. I would say, I don't know if anyone played Sims 2 Pets. You know, you could like be them and walk around. I would love if they brought that back. I preferred that to clicking everything.
Is this just wanting to play more Stray?
Yes. I need Stray
Just want to
2.
be a cat.
I would love actually like a prequel to Stray to see how it all happened. I would love that. But I also want a prequel to WALL-E. And they intertwine when you think about it.
That's true.
Yeah, I love robots. Which brings me on to the next game, which is Armoured 6. I've never played an Armoured Core game. I've not really seen gameplay for an Armoured Core game. The only thing I know about was they had that failed compatibility thing you played on, and it was awful. But I've been told it's a mech game where you shoot in a mech, and I've played Earth Defense Force, which I really enjoy, and it kind of looks similar. And I found out as well they're going to introduce a battle bit where you can battle other people in an arena.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun. So those are my two anticipated games. We don't know a lot of them yet, so those are mine.
I think with Sims 5, I think my main thing with it, because I tried Sims 4, but the problem is I tried it on a console. I think if they could make playing it on console a bit more ease of use, because there was playing it on console, it was like one button did like 6 different things, and I was like, I can't do this right now.
I literally played it the other day, and I don't know what happened, but I couldn't switch the levels of the house. So I had to follow my sim to get to the next level. It just would not let me. And I don't know if it's a console glitch.
Sorry, I just need to interject because all I can see while I'm looking across the table is Rhys trying to cut a pancake. He's destroyed a fork and failing to use a knife. Can we get some metal cutlery, please?
Big boy cutlery. For a big boy.
Because it's painful to watch.
Where are we from?
But
Well, that's the discussion we had earlier, right?
So sensitive.
But I think the thing you were talking about with Armoured Core was that it was like a massive. It was a controller, but it was like a cockpit.
It was huge.
It was like it was about the size of the table.
Yeah.
My brain just
was.
froze.
Which I think is an interesting concept. I would have loved to have played it, but only if it actually ran correctly.
Well, no,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want a degree to have to play my games.
Yeah, it's like I would have loved to have played Sonic Freeriders, but everyone knew that Kinect was not going to run that at all. The Kinect barely works like on Just Dance. It was not going to work on a hoverboard game.
Yeah.
So I think like introducing like more tech stuff is interesting, but you gotta get it right. You can't be like, look at this new shiny thing, you're all gonna love it, and it fail completely because then no one wants to know then.
To be fair, with how VR is now, they probably could do the cockpit, except instead of the big machine, it's just VR.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that would
that'd
be
be
really because you can grab the handles and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be very good actually.
It'd be a lot easier now to do it on VR. There's probably quite a few games that have probably done it already.
I have an Oculus.
I think I'm sorry, go on, Rob.
Do we know when these games are getting released?
Sims does not have a date yet, and I'm
Right.
not too sure about Armoured Core. I think Armoured Core was supposed to be like maybe June, July.
Yeah, Armoured Core is this year.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
those are mine. Just based on the fact that they're robots and controlling people, apparently. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to go next?
The one I'm looking forward to most is Final Fantasy 16.
Yes.
Always been a massive fan of Final Fantasy. The one I wasn't keen on was 15. I really didn't love it.
That's the boy band one, isn't it?
I struggled with it.
I love it.
I love that one.
I don't know. I know 16 is going back to medieval fantasy theme, so it's very much on point with 9 and 13 in terms of the world.
Is it a prequel?
Not sure. I don't think so.
Or was Final Fantasy? What's the other one that came out recently?
Oh, another one you're on about. Yeah, that was
so
like
Final Fantasy 0.
That was like a remake / prequel to another game.
No, so 16, I believe, is just standalone. It's not attached to any of the other Final Fantasy games, as far as I'm aware. I might be wrong, but it just is Final Fantasy. It's just that epic fantasy adventure. They've removed it from open world, so it's not open world. But they've given it an open world feel in terms of the encounters and things.
Oh, okay.
So the summons that we know and love from the Final Fantasy franchise, they all exist, but they have what's called a dominant. So they're linked to a person. So a person controls one, so you don't get access to all of them. I don't know how it's going to work from the player point of view.
So maybe each character that you get controls one.
But that's the thing with this. So Final Fantasy 16, you play as one person. All the rest of your party is AI controlled, so you don't scroll through your characters. You literally play as the one character, and flick through different sort of play sets and cast them real time. So it's action based combat.
So in terms of, you say it's not open world, but they're trying to give it an open world feel. The only other game I can kind of think that does that is the newest God of War games.
All right, I haven't played
because they each map is you can go anywhere in the map.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of corridors and set paths and stuff. You can't there's a lot of walls in the way. There's only one big open area in each map. So I wouldn't consider that open world, but I know a lot of people may. But when I think of open world, I think of literally just going anywhere on it. But see, that's what I really liked about Final Fantasy 15. It made me grind it more to get the flying car, because I was like, oh, that's so cool. But no, because what's the other game I played that was But no, I think I can appreciate a more linear experience, just because, like I said, we've working a full-time job now. I'm kind of I need to get through my games.
Yeah. I don't obviously I don't know. I haven't seen a lot other than what's been released in terms of trailers and things. But I don't think you'll end up being pigeonholed into this very linear path you were in sort of 10 and things like that. So Final Fantasy 10, where it's very linear, you go from this island to this island onto this road that you have to get to the end. You know what I mean? It was very linear.
Not as linear as 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 was literally just corridors. Yeah.
Well, 13 had the backlash, wasn't it, of where it was so linear at the beginning, you could only go forward, which came into a problem when you would meet a boss and somehow you were under-leveled for the boss.
Oh, so that reminds me of a story. So Final Fantasy X was one of my favourite games growing up. I absolutely loved it. I played it through and through and through. I even enjoyed 10 too. Controversial, I know. It was fun.
It was fun.
It was a different experience. But my friend growing up borrowed it off me, and he was doing his first playthrough of it. And there's a point in 10 where, I think spoilers are fine at this point.
When was the game released?
Ages ago.
Yeah, so long ago.
We talking
I will
years,
find that out.
yeah.
Probably 12 to 13 years ago.
Okay.
But you get to a point where you get onto an airship, and there's no mobs, there's no NPCs, there's no way of farming on this airship. You just on it, and then you have to fight Every, which is a horrible boss if you're on the level for it. And he was, and he spent 2 weeks just trying to beat this boss. There was just nothing he could do.
Yeah, I bet.
To the point where you just had to reset the game and just go again.
It's the problem with RPG
It
games.
was rough.
Don't tell him when it released, bro, because
I
that's
want-
going to upset him.
Yeah, I was just about to say, how old do you think it is? How old do you think it is?
Go on, tell me.
No, say a guess first. He's saying 2008. Do
I
you
know
want
it.
to-
I know
Oh,
it.
you know
I'm
it.
looking at it.
So you just seen my issue. What do you
Guess
think?
how old it is. That's easier.
So I was born in 92.
Oh, it's
so my
2005,
age.
isn't it? So
I think it's going to be like 2005.
2001.
Yeah.
Is it that old?
I'm gonna
Actually, yeah, that makes sense.
It's
actually.
22 years
22
old.
Yeah.
19th of July in
I was
2001.
Yeah, I was 9.
It's
You were
one.
very developed as a child.
It's legally old enough to drink in America. That game.
Oh my.
Well, to be fair, the franchise is celebrating 35 years this year.
Yeah.
It's its 35th anniversary.
So what? Because I don't play Final Fantasy.
Yeah, no.
It's not my tag.
Same.
It's not my type of
It's
game,
not my
right?
thing either, I get that.
So this comes down to some.
Okay,
But
go.
what number are we on now?
No,
16.
We just told-
I always
No,
make a joke about it, and Liam hates it. Whenever they're like, oh, it's a new Final Fantasy, I'll turn and go, it's not very Final Fantasy then. It's like 16.
It annoys
It's not
me
final.
because each game they're not continuations of each other.
So it's different stories.
Some are, though,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Some are, yeah.
Well,
New
you'll get
fantasy.
like 10, 10, 2.
It's
and
7 and 8 linked.
No.
Or were they entirely separate? Okay.
entirely separate. Yeah, 8 was Leon. 8 was a great game.
It was very good.
8 was so good. And then 7 you had Cloud,
Like-
so yeah, totally different stories.
Final Fantasy 7 has Cloud. You got Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 7 Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7
Yeah.
Dirge of Cerberus.
So if they're linked, they'll be like 10, 10, 2, 12. What was the
13 and 13. Two was another
yeah,
one.
13 and
Final
13
Fantasy
was what I was
13
thinking
and
of.
Lightning Returns. or
Yeah,
something
Lightning
like that.
Returns. Yeah, that's what I
Like
was thinking
that's why it was so easy for me. I'd never played a Final Fantasy game until Final Fantasy 15, but that's why it was so easy to jump into it because I didn't need to know anything about the other games.
Well, you don't anyway, to be fair. You could just pick up any of the Final Fantasy franchises except for the sequels.
Okay.
And just sit and play them. Like, they're great as just playthroughs on their own.
Mm.
But you quickly develop a love for the franchise. I think it's like one of those games where it's either for you or it's not. Obviously, for you, I'm guessing you've tried them?
No, I've never
No?
tried them.
I'm not a huge RPG person, which is like why I don't
Yeah.
play them. So.
I get
I've tried
that.
a lot of them.
Yeah, they're great, but I'm just super excited for just the cinematics alone
Oh, yeah.
that we've seen are just insane, honestly.
Gorgeous.
If you get a chance, have a look at some of them. There's a battle between Shiva and one of the other summons, and honestly, the cinematics are just stunning.
I remember seeing the combat system and I was there like, this looks very Devil May Cry-ish.
Yeah. Has a very similar feel from what we've seen.
Interesting fact for the listeners. Do you guys know why it was called Final Fantasy?
No.
Because I'm pretty sure this is how it is. So double check it for me. The reason why it was called Final Fantasy was it was actually going to be the developer's last game. Because they had tried a bunch of ones before that and a bunch of those didn't work out. So this was their last game and they just called it Final Fantasy.
Were they the ones who did Chrono Trigger as well?
Yeah, I think so. And they
That one
Yeah.
as well, just in
Yes.
case.
So the company was facing bankruptcy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
so that was their final game that they were going to put out, was called Final Fantasy, and it did so well that they've done another 16 or maybe more
And spin-offs.
and spin-offs.
If the guy, like the head guy, it didn't go well, he would have quit the business and gone back to university.
Sound.
Isn't there a movie as well?
There's
Yeah.
a few.
There's
Oh,
a
there's
movie of
some-
7.
Yeah.
There's what's the one of because looking back on it now, I like it better. It's the one where the spirits come back.
Spirit
but-
Within.
Spirits Within.
Yeah.
Looking back on Spirits Within and seeing it now, I'm there like, you know what? The plot for that isn't so bad. It's actually really good as a film. I think the problem is it's called a Final Fantasy film.
Yeah, that's what I never understood. But
So when is Final Fantasy?
I don't think it's got an exact date. It's just summer of 23 was the last update, I believe, unless
Okay.
something's changed since I've seen it last. But other than that, I think the only thing I'm like super excited for is the new Horizon DLC, Burning Shores. They've announced that they're not going to be supporting PS4, and it is going to be next gen only.
was
So it's
it
gonna-
what for a DLC?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
might alienate a few people.
It upset quite a few people.
Yeah, so based on sales, I think a third of Forbidden West was a third of the sales was for PS4.
Yeah.
But they did give the PS5 expansion, like the free PS5 upgrade
Yeah.
on the purchase. They done that whole thing. So I think there's still going to be quite a few people that were upset. It was like 2.5 years ago since that release. So hopefully most of them have at least upgraded.
That is crazy to me. I've never heard of a DLC being released specifically for a certain generation.
They're releasing it without the limitations of PS4 development.
But that doesn't make sense because obviously it's still using base game assets. So it's still, this limitations are still there for like the gameplay and certain stuff like that.
To a certain extent, yeah, but you do get to develop without having to worry about being limited.
I think Cyberpunk is doing the same because they're doing their Liberty DLC, and Cyberpunk have said that it's not coming out for last gen. In fact, a lot of the Cyberpunk updates, when they've been showing a bunch of them, they actually had to separate a few of them. Being like in Cyberpunk now, you can buy your own apartments, like multiple ones. Can't do that on the old gen, I believe.
All right.
Because they just said it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
But so from what we've seen, you start the DLC with a flying mount. So it's based in LA, but I think the world is going to be huge. Because why else would you be given a flying mount to start?
Oh, is it going to be like a completely different map? Is it?
Yeah. It's obviously it's the same world,
Okay.
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Some landmarks that we're going to recognise, like the Hollywood sign and stuff, is in there, like in one of the trailers being destroyed by one of the machines and things like that. But yeah, it's based in LA. You start with a flying mount, and hopefully it's going to give us what we want. But yeah, I'm just kind of excited to see what they do with leaving the PS4 behind and just kind of looking forward.
I was going to say that I'm excited to see when they release Horizon 3. Because Horizon have had this unfortunate just curse of where they released Horizon, the first one, Zero Dawn, and alongside that was Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, really?
And then Horizon decided, hey, we're going to do the Forbidden West. And what came out the exact same month? Elden Ring. Every time they release their game, the Game of the Year releases alongside them.
That's insane.
So when Horizon 3 comes out, we know what's coming out. Game of the Year.
But yeah, the DLC comes out in April, I think, this year. I'm not sure on the exact date. There is an exact date for it, but I'm sure it's April.
We're running out of time, so Rhys is going to need to speak about his.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm good. That's me done.
So my most anticipated game is Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown.
Mm-hmm.
I am so excited for this game. Mostly because the last one was released in 2011. Now, for people who like racing games and driving games, this game...
Continue.
It's going to sound stupid, but it's like the little things in this game that I love, especially Test Drive Unlimited 2. Like, it's an open world driving game, and you can just be driving along and be like, I'm going to turn right. But you don't just turn right, you indicate to turn right. Like, there's something entirely new.
You could have short that sentence to just, you can use indicators.
I know, but anyway, we're here now. But anyway, you can put your windows down, you can walk into dealerships and like be like, I want that car by there.
So can I ask you then, basically, for that, does that indicators I can kind of, well, no, I can't understand having an indicator in the game just because, but with the rolling your windows down, does that serve any purpose in the game, or is that just for your personal immersion sort of thing?
No, so what I used to do, I don't know if I'll do it in the new one now, but what I used to, because you could have a cockpit view, and if you put the window down, the engine sound would sound differently.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Like
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Rather than, just standard. You were going to say something.
I don't know, it kind of feels like an expansion to The Sims, honestly. Like going to a car dealership, picking out your car, like paying for it. So, like, How does it work? Obviously racing games, so like you and your mentor winning races.
Basically, the new one, I'll give you a brief description. It's an open world driving and lifestyle experience taking place in Hong Kong Island, built at a 1-to-1 scale. You don't believe it's built on a 1-to-1 scale, but
I would be very impressed if they managed that.
Grab your keys and live your life. Live the life of luxury. Remember, social status is everything in the world of TDU.
I'm gonna be completely honest,
Yeah.
right? That description sounds up its own bum, right? Because they called it an open world driving and lifestyle experience instead of just racing game.
Yeah.
But so the thing about Test Drive Unlimited, what separated it from the other driving games, was it was very much based on your social status.
Okay. So how does that like impact the game? Like, depend on your social status. Does it depend like what cars you have access to and things like that? Oh,
Do you,
really?
like, start
So you-
poor?
So what
you
I'm
start
hearing is that
Okay.
there's a class system in
Oh,
the racing game.
You're
So-
right. But
What is your goal in this game? Like
to be rich.
okay.
So basically, I remember in the last one, it was brilliant because you start off poor and you then get money from races and you could buy houses across the island.
So
You could
who
go.
helps you with the mortgage for the house?
The car.
So yes,
I was going to say, so you're telling me Test Drive Unlimited is the equivalent of you start off poor, and then once you've played it for a while, you start asking people
You
what
like
colour
that.
is your Bugatti.
Yeah.
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 So on the Steam page for it, it says MMO. So
Okay.
is it like technically is it like a load of people in just one server
my
just
God,
that'd
driving
be
around?
chaos.
Oh my god, it's World of Warcraft for cars.
Yeah.
literally, you can just drive and do meetups. So like Need for Speed.
Oh, sorry. When you say do meetups, is it just going to be like 3 people sat in the corner of the local Morrison's car park, just like beeping away, being annoying?
So why are you
I'm
trying
trying
to
to
do?
scroll up the pictures.
So yeah, you guys can see the photos, but
Yeah.
obviously they can't.
It looks
It's
gorgeous, man. Not gonna lie. That's
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing. That's one thing racing games always
Racing
manages
games
to
always
look
look nice.
absolutely top tier.
But I remember in the last Test Drive Unlimited, remember 2011, so it's a good few years ago. What you could do is like I said, you start off, you then build your way up, you buy houses, you can buy a casino on a private island if you wanted.
That's it's kind of cool. Like again, like you're saying, like it's a lifestyle
Mm.
game, but it really does feel like rich people lifestyle.
It is.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're glossing over though? The fact that no one's talking about the fact it's a 1-to-1 scale.
I'm looking that up now
Oh,
because I'm looking at how big Hong Kong Island is in square
Yeah, so-
miles.
Sorry, we need the audio.
It's
So
not.
it's 430 square miles, and if I remember correctly, fuel is the biggest map for a racing game. So I'm just gonna look up how big that is.
Because if it is a 1-to-1 scale, the amount of like exploration you can do is insane, and that would
Yeah.
make you play it just driving around.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
So in the last one as well, what I liked about it, you could do meetups, right? But also, you could put an application, not you're in, you can put an application into a car group, which means if you become part of this car group, you have your own bar, your own test track, and if you're part of this group, you get a specific car only for that car group. No one else on the island has this car.
So it's like
So-
Yeah, but it is just World of Warcraft, but in cars.
Yeah,
That's
like,
kind of cool. But
it is really cool, but I don't know. Like when I'm thinking racing game, I think like obviously like the
Need for
track
Speed.
games and
Yeah.
even Need for Speed, but like PGA, Forza, all that kind of stuff. Like you got your tracks, you go and race them. When it comes to like this, I don't know if it's just me missing the point,
Mm.
but like I don't know what the aim is.
Oh, it's most definitely just us missing the point, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't think this game isn't for us.
No,
It's for
Me.
people
Cars.
like
Yeah.
people like
car
Rhys
enthusiasts,
or
yeah.
Dom that like take like pride in their car and like
Yeah.
they just love cars.
Yeah, I get that.
But I do have an answer for the 1-to-1 scale. So the map, if it's 1-to-1, should be 430 square miles, which is quite a bit. But Fuel, their map was approximately 5,560 square miles.
Jeez, okay.
Because I've watched a video on it before, and the video is 4 hours long, and it's a race that. So if you go from one corner to the other of the map, it takes 2 hours. That's without following roads. That's if you just take an off-road car and just drive all the way to the other side,
Yeah.
and then it's another 2 hours on the way back. So that's a long map.
Yeah.
That's a very long map.
So I don't even, to be honest, I've looked it up, but I don't know if 430 square miles is big or not.
Hong Kong Island, I don't think is that big anyway.
I think it's definitely achievable.
Yeah.
Obviously, the logistics of doing that's up to them to kind of do, but I'm sure they've achieved it if they've claimed it. I've no doubt that it is going to be. But yeah, so like, what is the... Because like when you play an MMO, you kind of have like a story to follow while it's kind of like this open world experience where you can kind of go and do things. So like I'm thinking Final Fantasy 14, I'm thinking Eve, those things, which are the ones I'm most familiar with. You have this like massive expanse to go and do whatever you want. But like, what is the, excuse the pun, but like the driver of the game? It's like, what, do you know what I mean? Is there like a story that carries you through?
So there's a story, but then you obviously have the open world just free run. But there is a story you can do. So remember rightly on the last story, it was simply just, it's going to sound silly for a driving game, but racing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just racing and like sponsorships.
Okay.
And then the higher the race, the obviously better car you need. So say you could start with a Volkswagen Golf, and then at the end of the game you could have a Bugatti Veyron. Like the aim of the game is to get a car no one else has.
Yeah.
And then just race and live a life of luxury. I am speeding up quickly because I know Link.
Oh, I was just going to say, the fact that it has indicators in it means that BMWs aren't in the game.
Oh yeah, BMWs aren't in this game. But that's what I'm saying. Like when you think about how advanced we've become with games, like graphic-wise, noise-wise, for a game built in 2011, the last one, where if you change to a cockpit view, the whole entire engine sounds a bit different, especially if you're going through a tunnel. I think it is something amazing.
I am interested in keeping up with it.
Yeah, me too.
Just from hearing everything about it alone.
Yeah.
Again, just the fact it's World of Warcraft, but just for cars. I'm there like, it's very interesting. Oh, I do like though that on a technicality, the way you think about it, stuff like we'll say like FIFA, racing games like Test Drive and Forza and stuff. Well, they come down to it, and they like FIFA is kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but football players.
Yeah.
And Test Drive sounds like World of Warcraft, but just cars.
Yeah.
Just find that these games, you would probably class them as jockey games. So all of the like cool, excuse it, chav kids from like high school back in our day.
Yeah.
Probably played a lot of those style of games. And it's just funny that the game's now upgrading now to go off that, are going off all of the nerdy stuff and being there like, hey, let's grab all that and put it into car games.
So yeah, it's coming out this year. They haven't actually said when it's coming out every year. But it was meant to come out at the end of last year, which means that it's going to be coming soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the games at the moment, they're all releasing out. I know Final Fantasy 16 had like a 6-month delay in production because of COVID.
I think a lot of games now as well. I think they've started to realise that we would rather games get delayed and pushed back than come out crap.
Yeah, well, I think like Cyberpunk
Is the point of that.
was
Sonic
the
06.
pinnacle of that, wasn't it? It was, there was so much hype for Cyberpunk, they released it and it was so buggy.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I had it gifted to me, I didn't even bother installing it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like Fallout 5 as well.
I
isn't
just
it?
waited. I was like,
Fallout 4 was it?
I've waited this long for this game. Like, I'm not going to play it subpar. I'm just going to wait until it's fixed.
I gotta be honest before we end as well, because we've run out of time now. Because we all got Cyberpunk
On day one.
on day
I
one.
didn't.
I got a little postcard. It was so cool. But I never actually had like any major issues with save game or anything like that. The only issue I had was maybe you would get shot by someone who you couldn't see.
That's generally a
Oh,
problem.
no. That's intended in the game because some characters have sniper rifles that can shoot through walls.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Oh my
then.
God, how
So most probably
Yeah,
that.
no.
and the fact that you'd be getting chased by the cops and you run down an alleyway and you'd be like, oh, there's only 4 of them, and you turn to the wall and turn back, and suddenly they've all duplicated.
Yeah.
And now there's 8 cops down, and you're like, I'm not getting out of this. But yeah, so that's my most anticipated game on 2023.
Maybe we could save all that for another podcast. Maybe most disappointing games.
Ooh.
Tease.
Ooh, I like that.
Most
That's a-
disappointing games is a good shout.
because
Yes.
Plug.
No,
Tease.
thanks.
Wink, wink.
sadly 3 of us won't be here next week. So
Who's missing next week?
them 2.
Them two being Beth and Liam, who are going to Iceland.
That's Liam, not owner of Geek.
Not the
Retreat.
store.
Little Liam.
And I'm off to Bristol
How are you?
because Bristol.
Sounds exotic.
What's happening
I-
in Bristol?
I'm
Is
meeting.
your car meet up? Are you going
It's a test drive and limited me up.
To show people how when you roll your windows up, if you're sat inside the car, your engine sounds different.
It just does sound a lot better. I've taken you guys down the tunnel.
No,
It's just
honestly,
something.
like, I am kind of excited to see what they do with it. Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to see. I'm not so much the driving, because at the end of the day, like, for me, driving's driving. I think most driving games achieve a relatively similar caliber of driving experience.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see what they do with the lifestyle side of it, and sort of how that is incorporated, and how, like, maybe like side hustle stuff can earn you money quicker for like car upgrades, and kind of that whole interaction. Like I said, like I made a joke about it being a Sims expansion, but it really does feel like that could be the way it's gone with it.
Yeah.
I more want to see the map because I think this is just me being, I don't know if it's me being
Cynical.
elitist or
Oh.
cynical maybe, but I feel like a 1-to-1 recreation of a city or an island is wasted on a driving game. Because it's sort of the thing of when you're in a car, you're limited. Obviously, you can stick to the road, you can drive. Yeah, no, like you can drive off road and stuff like that. You can't go down like into shops and like down side streets and stuff.
Yeah, I don't suppose they
And
would have.
explore like tops of buildings and stuff. Innit?
They probably wouldn't have bothered with the interior as well.
Yeah, that's it. So you're just looking at the framework. So they wouldn't have actually, like, it's not entirely mapped. Even like the countryside, like if you can't access it via road, then it's probably just like coded distance. It's not actually going to be
So
developed.
To be
I-
fair though,
I-
it looks like it'll be an interesting map. Like Hong Kong Island's got a lot going on there.
yeah, like you got the city, and then you got obviously the country and beach area down here.
It's kind of interesting that they've got these like offshore islands with no bridge access.
Yeah, yeah.
So it kind of
So basically, for just a quick one, on the last one, you had little islands like this that
Okay.
over time with expansions, and you could get on a ship and ship your car across.
that's kind of cool.
And like one island would be a casino, one would be just like a little small island you could drive around.
I don't know. This might be like unpopular or something, but I think stuff like that in a game like this, where it's lifestyle and like cars and that, and trying to simulate real life as much as possible, I think it'd be really interesting to see those things happen real time.
Yeah.
So like if you are gonna put your car on a ship, it's real time to like make that
Yeah,
crossing.
of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like if it just feels like if that's the lifestyle aspect that they want to introduce into this game in particular, it feels like real time would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Go the full way.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you're gonna do that, like go the whole
Do it
hog. Don't
proper.
kind of be like, yeah, we're gonna do this, but we're gonna make it really easy for you to not use the lifestyle aspect of the game if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
So
Do you know what I mean?
on the last one quickly as well, there was 2 islands,
Okay.
and you could drive up to the airport and get on a plane and just fly across 2 the other islands.
Yeah.
So it was also roads where like you'd have a beach island, and then you'd have a more mountain rocky island. So you'd have different cars on different maps, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're going realistic, I think we're going to have to do about the price of fuel. I think that'll be really interesting.
Oh my! Your car runs out of fuel all of a sudden.
But yeah, so
One final note from me on it. Like, I'm so intrigued by it. Like, I've never, like, it's never been my type of game.
I'll let you borrow it.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love PGR. Like, Project Gotham Racing was probably the last game.
Oh, so good.
It was great, and I loved it. But like this, with it being an MMO, it'd be really interesting to see like whether they have like a trade-in function or whether you can like race a pink slip and
that'd
like.
be sick.
Do you know what I mean? Like it. I there's so much they can do with it. I think that's why I'm so intrigued with it. It's like there's so much potential in it. It's just interesting to see how far they're gonna go with this. Like I said, with the lifestyle aspect of it.
Yeah.
And like, can you get to a point where you're like, I'm carless, what do I do?
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
I now got to walk the streets.
All of a sudden, your game is no longer about driving. You're suddenly working in a shop, trying to get enough to get a finance for a car.
Do you know what I mean? Though? Like, it could go to that extreme. Like, that is the potential.
There'll
of
be
this
a
game.
race against like a Bugatti Veyron and you show up in a lawnmower. It could be that level.
This is all they have.
Just sat on your 1.1 fly mode.
Bugatti can't go the long way round on the mountain road. You're just driving over the grass and there's just a line where you cut the grass. But I'm happy with that.
I think we're all happy with how this podcast turned out. I feel like Dom is gonna hate editing this.
He is.
We love you, Dom.
Do an outro, say goodbye to our listeners.
So, thank you for joining us for another episode of Breakfast Rapper. And we hope you enjoyed it. See you soon.
Good stuff.
Yeah.